So, hey everybody, I'm TJ, and I'd like to talk today a little bit about quote unquote pre-writing, but really what I'm trying to talk about is the relationship between your writing process and your writing projects. And I'm going to use my own experience to do that, and hopefully you can extrapolate from that something that might help you. So here's a little bit about my own experience. It's almost exactly 20 years since I got a graduate degree in creative writing. And in the intervening years, I've written a lot, I've taught writing full-time, I've published some books. And yet through all that time, what I've just only now begun to understand is that the relationship between my writing process and my writing projects has been pretty dysfunctional. And so lately I've taken to thinking of myself as kind of a recovering MFA. And so this is, in a way, it's my recovery narrative. So this is my writing process. Let's say it's this vast, deep body of water. But let's really be honest. Sometimes it looks like this, right? It's chaotic, it's churning, it's not placid at all. Regardless of what's happening on the surface, the depths are unmoved. And it's a place where I can start to transcend that writerly ego that developed more than 2 decades ago and that I still grapple with. So let's extend the metaphor a little bit. Sometimes something cool leaps up out of that vast, mysterious depth, but it's fleeting. And sometimes the leaping things leap, but nobody's around to see it. Or even if they are, nobody really cares. Maybe it's not all about leaping. Regardless of what's going on at the surface, whether it's this tsunami tidal wave type thing, or whether there's these cool leaping creatures with sonar in their teeth, maybe there's something more important happening in the depths. Here's a less metaphorical way to look at it. The idea behind all of these charts and diagrams and bullet points is that it's mostly process. Also, it's all writing, right? I want to even problematize the idea of pre-writing. It's all writing. It's not just dolphins. And when I have gotten into trouble, which is to say a lot, in this area over the course of the last 20 years and counting, it's been because I've focused on the dolphins. So this is not a dolphin, this is Allen Ginsberg. Here's what he said about oceans and dolphins. Really, he's talking about spontaneous writing, which is, I think we do associate that with pre-writing, we'll call it free writing or whatever. But I think it is at the crux of this process projects question. So I'm gonna read it. The parts that embarrass you the most are usually the most interesting poetically, are usually the most naked of all, the rawest, the goofiest, the strangest, and most eccentric, and at the same time, most representative, most universal. That was something I learned from Kerouac, which was that spontaneous writing could be embarrassing. The cure for that is to write things down which you will not publish and which you won't show people, to write secretly, so you can actually be free to say anything you want. It means abandoning being a poet, abandoning your careerism, abandoning even the idea of writing any poetry, really abandoning, giving up as hopeless, abandoning the possibility of really expressing yourself to the nations of the world, abandoning the idea of being a prophet with honor and dignity, and abandoning the glory of poetry, and just settling down in the muck of your own mind. You really have to make a resolution to write for yourself, in the sense of not writing to impress yourself, but just writing what yourself is saying. And so when I'm thinking about process versus projects, I am now thinking about, okay, well, how do I make space for me to hear what myself is saying? Honestly, a lot of it is what might be called pre-writing, which in a former life, I might have said doesn't count as writing, but of course it does count as writing. More than that, it is the writing. The dolphins are a byproduct of it, but that's the crux of the matter, right? And so here are just a few bullet points of activities that I know help me hear what myself is saying. And what you'll notice about them, at least the first two, are not literally putting words on a page. And yet, I think you can make an argument that they are the most ancient and time-honored ways that writers have done this type of work. Ironically, one of the things that falls by the wayside when you take yourself seriously as a writer, or at least this has happened to me, is my own self-directed reading, right? So I'm a teacher of writing, and so a lot of what I read are drafts in progress, and then I want to do my own writing, right? And that's takes up a lot of time and space. And so one of the first things that goes away is just reading stuff that I want to read for my own purposes. And I'm going to encourage you and encourage myself to not let that happen. Start with reading. Reading is an important way of helping you to hear what yourself is saying. So is walking. There's a great article in the New Yorker, which I've linked to here in the PowerPoint, which sort of gets at the science behind why walking helps us think, and why walking has been a go-to for so many writers over the years as a compositional strategy, really. So reading and walking, right? If you feel stuck, read something. If you feel stuck, go for a walk. That's pretty easy, or at least it's simple. It's a simple go-to. And then there's a lot of what I call noticing and documenting, right? So when you go on your walk, you're noticing. I think there's an important transition that happens when you document what you've noticed. And in the digital age, we have at our fingertips a way to document things. Our phones take pictures. They have note-taking apps, and that's really actually very useful. I'm not going to be a Luddite on you, an anti-technology Luddite. I would say use that tool for all it's worth. But I also think that physical notebooks are really useful and helpful because I think they just literally activate a different part of the brain. And I'm going to make a case for a commonplace book. Commonplace book is a great place to put quotes, to literally cut and paste things in, to do journal writing and listing and et cetera, but also just to put everything in the kitchen sink goes in there. You don't really even have to turn on the editor at all. It's just everything that captures your imagination can go into this place. I'm also going to make an argument for something that I call 30 things I love right now. It's really ostensibly a gratitude list. And I think there's something magic about that number, 30 things. It's not easy to do. It's not impossible to do. It's not impossible to do in a sitting, of 15 minutes to 30 minutes, but sometimes it can stretch out to an hour. And it's a good sort of stretch out to an hour. It helps you sort of think and process what's going on in your life, what your creative preoccupations are right now. And it also is a really good way to kind of understand the relationship between the sacred and the mundane in your life. Because blueberry Pop-Tarts can go on there, but so can a long extended anecdote about how your son smiled at you when he was sick, and it helped you understand your relationship with your father or something like that. It can be this sort of really disparate set of important things that are important in different ways. And again, it is a gratitude list. And for anyone really, but especially writerly types who tend towards melancholy or anxiety or any number of mental health maladies, a gratitude list is a good thing to get into a habit of doing. And there's a raft of research on that actually writing the gratitude list out regularly can help regulate mood. It can help, regulate distorted thinking and all sorts of positive things. So all of that's to say that isn't the sum total list of quote unquote pre-writing activities that can actually feed and nourish your creative spirit and help you inhabit that vast creative space that is your process. But you can start there. And I invite you to start there. And if you're interested in that stuff, I'm doing something called the Right Mindfulness Project, which is a do-it-yourself guide. It's a book, but I'd also love to do some workshops down the line. In the book, there's a 10-week program of trying to help folks write for the right reasons, do some of these activities that may or may not be defined as pre-writing, and see how they might lead to some dolphins, or at least to some sort of embryonic dolphins, which was the name of my band in college. No, it wasn't, but it should have been. That would have been good. So yeah, as the kids say, that's my TED Talk. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are interested in it, find the links, check out my blog, which will have this presentation on there, and then also some links that might be helpful for you. All right, onward and upward.